Hey guys, Ben Painting. Today we're back once again for another video, and this time we are continuing on from where we left off with the 6th round of the SRK Championship at Herefordshire Raceway. Obviously we've already had our footage from the 5th round, so we know what's going on. 3 heats and a final, so what we're going to do is jump straight into our first heat, which I believe is heat number 5. So we had a little bit of a wait after lunch, and we're just going to see how we get on. So let's jump into the footage now and see what we can do. Jumping into our first heat in the afternoon then, guys, we were lining up in 6th position here, and I was hoping to get a little bit of redemption from the way that we ended the last one. Just carry on the momentum as much as we could and see where we end up. Now we're lining up here behind Connecticut Racing Team teammate Harley Smith. He's in 5th position, and I was hoping to try and work with him to make our way through the pack. However, you can see pretty quickly that we're not off to the quickest start, and we're instead beginning to get dropped from the drivers up ahead. I'm having to go quite defensive early on as the drivers behind are sniffing around us looking for some free positions on me, and this is obviously causing us to just lose time to the guys behind, and we're just under quite a lot of pressure. You can see there's a driver down the inside here as we're going under the bridge. We sort of get forced out wide, and unfortunately for us, we have Neil Durant going up the inside of Ben Luff, and that has just caused us to get washed out so wide and all the way back down into last place on the grid. Now, quick disclaimer, there may be a few unchoice words and actions throughout this video, as soon as this happened, I think that our head just disappeared. We had the mental stability throughout this afternoon event of an angry Rottweiler, and it just all starts sort of falling apart around us. Due to this, we just sort of lost our head, and this is going to be sort of the theme for the whole video. Luckily, we're able to sort of compromise or sort of bounce back off the compromise of Ben Luff up ahead of us, and we're able to move ourselves back up into 8th position. But running a bit wide coming out of the bridge section, we were just sort of stuck in 8th. Now, we do skip forward quite a fair distance in this one, just because the car I was using just didn't really feel like it had any pull. You can see, if you compare this to our lap times in earlier sort of sessions in the morning, we're about a second, we're almost a second off the pace where we really need to be. So we're coming across the line once again at 36.231, having to slightly avoid Freddie Tocknell there, who had a little bit of an incident coming down the bridge section. But as I mentioned, this car here just didn't really like how it was working. Now, I did get caught napping here by Robbie Petchy. I was looking up ahead, there were yellow flight lights still flashing, obviously due to the incident with Freddie Tocknell, and I just sort of getting angry at myself here because the yellow lights were still flashing. I was unsure if something else had happened up ahead. Obviously, I believed that the yellow lights would have gone out and we could have resumed racing, but unfortunately for me, just bit of a lapse of concentration there, and Robbie just takes opportunity of it and goes right down the inside to move himself up into 7th, and we are now back down in 8th. Now, we are having to defend once again from Ben Luff, who is in behind us in 9th, having to really sort of squeeze on him, taking a little bit too much of the inside on the first hairpin. That's obviously sort of lost us all our momentum going into the second hairpin. Now we're under pressure once again, and this has allowed Robbie to sort of just shoot off into the distance. I knew that as soon as he was able to get past us after we'd been defending for the whole heat pretty much, he was then going to shoot off. But we come around the last corner here, and this was in fact the very last lap. Not too much happened other than that. So with that, we did finish in 8th position. Bit disappointed, but we're going to jump into the second heat now. Our second heat was about to get underway, and you can see we're flying off immediately in 1st position. Line up on pole for this one, and it was just a case of could we keep the position that we started in. Obviously, we failed to do this in the morning session. We're overtaken by Max Thorne and Robbie Petchy. So this time I was really determined to almost park the bus from the beginning of the race. I wanted to make sure that we solidified this 1st position and didn't leak any sort of free positions to other people, as I knew that after the first heat we had to collect as many points as possible if we wanted any chance of a decent result from this afternoon session. You can see how defensive we're driving very early on, parking on the apex as well, and then looking over our shoulder just to ensure that we keep the position, and luckily for us, we're able to sort of hold station where we are at the moment. So still driving around quite comfortably. This car felt infinitely better than the car I used in the first heat in the afternoon. It just felt like it actually pulled out the corner corners, had a little bit more grip, and I felt that I was able to drive a bit better with it as well. So I was really happy to have this on our pole heat. I was happy to not have a bit of a dog cart when we started in first place. Obviously, if this happened, we probably was a shoe-in to get forced down the pack. So here we opened up a little bit of space to the drivers up behind who are squabbling with one another, and obviously we can't really see too much, so we do jump forward here, but obviously the drivers behind were having a little bit of a squabble. This allowed us to sort of break away into the distance, and what you're about to watch now is our fastest lap of this heat. So we're up in first place, still got a nice bit of a gap. We're checking over our shoulder just to see what the distance is to the drivers behind, but this lap was pretty clean. I was quite happy with this one, and you can see that we are now developing a bit of a gap to some of the other drivers behind us, getting the car rotated nicely through both of the hairpins, and again using all the track on the right hand side coming under the bridge just to get the kart turned in as well as we can. Really trying to keep the kart stable, coming back up and over the bridge once more and taking as smooth a line as we can down the bridge, and then we are looking over our shoulder once again. Obviously we are developing a little bit of a gap now at this point, so we're able to be a little bit more comfortable, and this leads to us coming across the line with a 34.782, which is still obviously a bit slower than some of our other results that we had earlier in the morning, but we're still happy to come across the line in this one in first place. So with not much happening, we're going to jump into the third heat as well. Our third heat then, guys, hoping to capitalise on as many sort of places as we could. Starting right at the back in 10th position, we get jumped off the line immediately by Jake Holly, who started in behind us, switched into arguably one of the best karts on the day, and he was able to get a nice big launch on us. I tried to move back to the inside, try and squeeze my way back up into 10th, but unfortunately we found ourselves in last place, and I knew immediately, you can see from my hand gestures here, that I was in a kart that was just off the pace once again. Got quite unlucky in this afternoon session, and you can see I'm just getting pulled on by everyone else up ahead. So I was hoping for a little bit of carnage up ahead to really try and capitalise and make some moves. We managed to make one pretty early on here. Jake just decides to try and move over to the right hand side to look for a switchback, and we just stick our car up the inside there and move back up into 10th, which is where we started. Now obviously we've got Zach Vent up ahead of us. I was hoping to try and make a nice early move on him as well, just to try and push ourselves forward as much as we can. We make a little bit of contact there with Kieran Smith and gain an under review board, which I didn't actually see at the time, if I'm brutally honest. I thought it was a bit of a fair move, but obviously we carried a little bit too much momentum up and over the bridge, and that obviously caused us to go into the back of Kieran, so apologies for that. But we are up into 9th place. We gained a position so far in this one, and I knew that I had to get my head down and really try and make these moves early on if I had any chance of trying to hold people behind, because I knew at this point that the kart just wasn't too quick in a straight line, and I was really struggling to use it once again, much like the first kart that I'd used earlier in the day. So we're coming around now up and over the bridge here, and you can see that we have been given a penalty board, which I also didn't see at the time, and we also get called napping by Jake, who flies past us into the first corner and also gives us a little bit of a sarcastic wave, which at the time in the car really did infuriate me, if I'm honest, and I really wanted to try and get my head down, try and catch back up. But you can see here, this then causes me to begin to overdrive the kart a little bit, and you can just see how much time we've lost through the second hairpin, and again we're just not really driving to the best of our ability. Jacob ahead goes for a move on Kieran up ahead, and this sort of bumps him out wide. I was hoping to try and go down the inside to make the move stick, but unfortunately we're just too far back, so we're still in 10th position, haven't gained anything, and we're just in the crab bucket now at this point, seeing the guys up ahead drive away into the distance. Didn't want to get caught stuck behind Kieran here, so I decided to go for a late move up the inside, moving ourselves up into 9th place. So I was quite happy to gain another position here, and we're still on the back of Jake, who is pulling out of the corners. Now unfortunately we do skip forward a little bit, as we were just sort of stuck in 9th position, and later in this one Zach then manages to capitalise on us driving quite undefensively, and he manages to move up into 9th himself, so we're back down into 10th position. And honestly, this is where we sort of ended up for most of the race. So we skip forward again, because I don't really want to show you guys just driving around the track, especially with the lap times that I was exhibiting. You can see 35 seconds is the fastest I've been able to do so far, which is completely off the pace. But there was all manners of activities going on up ahead. Zach gets the kart rotated very nicely. We have Ben Luff on our outside here, and luckily we're able to have the kart just enough alongside where we're able to make the move stick up into 9th place. We've got teammate Aaron Mitchell Begley up ahead as well, and I was hoping to try and work with him, as I knew his kart was moving little bit quicker than ours. I didn't want to send any silly moves on him, so you can see here I'm signalling to him, look, just move forward, I'm not going to go for an overtake, just try and make some moves stick so I can try and follow you through. Now, give him a little bit of a bump or a little bit of a boost out of the corner, just let him know I'm still there. I'm not really going to go for any silly moves, so I'm sort of holding the guys behind by taking a semi-defensive line into the first hairpin, and unfortunately out of the second hairpin, once again, we just bogged down coming out of it, and we just lose 2 or 3 kart lengths to the guys up ahead, and this is just pretty gutting, if I'm honest. So again, coming through up and over the bridge, we've just lost all the time that we'd sort of made up, and now we've just sort of stuck in 9th place once again. I knew with only a couple of laps left in the race that we weren't really going to gain all that time back, so we do skip forward again as we are in 9th place here, and we now get dropped down into 10th position because Ben is able to make a nice move up our inside. Didn't quite see him sneaking up on us, so I was looking for a switchback, but he defends quite nicely there on the exit of the corner. Unfortunately, we move ourselves back down into 10th place, which is where we started the heat, which is really disappointing as I always like to move forward in the heats. So here you can see by the end of the race at the checkered flag, we were still in 10th, and I'm clearly exhibiting all my emotions. My head had really gone at this point, as I know we had 2 bad results and a decent one. So with that in mind, we're going to jump into some post-heat thoughts and see what happened. Okay then guys, so after our 3 heats, wasn't able to do a mid sort of heat review catch up just because most of my heats were quite tight in together, so having to jump in and out quite quickly. Unfortunately, in the afternoon, we've just sort of been riddled with 3 karts in each of the heats that are just off the pace, and it's just been really difficult to keep the mental stability to try and work with the karts to try and make it through the pack. We did pick up a penalty in the last one, but I believe it was overturned as we got re-overtaken anyway. I don't know if we did get a give position backboard. I didn't quite see it at the time, but we then obviously got the penalty, but then the driver behind then overtook us into the first corner, so I think it got overturned anyway. Didn't really make a difference as we did finish second last in that one. Just haven't really had the best of afternoons in this one, unfortunately, so I think this has landed us near the back of the C final, so we're going to jump into that one now. This is unfortunately our worst result so far across the whole of this year, but nothing we can do. Obviously it's probably going to be a drop round, so we're just going to jump into the C final now and see what we can do. So as mentioned then guys, we are moving into the C final here, probably our lowest recorded result for the whole year, and I just wanted to go out here and have a bit of fun. However, unfortunately, I don't know if you can see the kart number, but we had the same kart number that we had earlier in the day, and I knew that it wasn't very good. I knew that we were going to get in it, and there wasn't really going to be any chance of us doing anything really throughout the race. So we were in 8th position, and I knew that this is where we were probably going to be stuck around. Now we do have Henry Barrington up ahead of us and Peyton Fricker as well, and I was trying to look for a bit of an early move. Henry sort of cuts us off quite well there, so I had to lock the brakes up just to ensure that we didn't go flying into the back of him into the brake zone. And now I was hoping to sit in behind him and look to make some moves if he was able to capitalise on anyone else up ahead. Now unfortunately for us, we just began to fall back once again, much like we did earlier in some of the other heats. Just didn't quite have the pace, which was really disappointing as I really do enjoy the track, and obviously we have been here quite a few times in the past, so I was hoping to get our head down in this one and really see what we could do. Obviously you can see up ahead the guys are battling. We've got Diego up ahead, we've got Dylan up ahead, and we just wanted to try and make as many moves as we can as early as possible, much like we had in other races. We go down the inside of Henry there, going side by side, coming under the bridge and able to move ourselves up into 7th place. So far been able to gain 1 position throughout this race, and I was hoping to make a few more by the end of it. But obviously, as I mentioned, I really was struggling in this car. I struggled in it earlier in the afternoon, and I knew that I was going to struggle in it once again. So coming through the first corner, we are trying to take as tight a line as possible, as I knew that Henry was probably looking to make a move back on us. But we do jump forward in this one, as nothing really happened until Henry decided to put the burners on us. You can see he's trying to go down the inside of us as we go up and over the bridge, and now he's able to make the move stick going into the first corner. Decided to try and hang it around the outside, as I knew that if I switched back to the right, I would have lost all my momentum. So we end up going over the grass, looking for a bit of a switch back here on him, getting the right hand side of the track whilst he's on the inside. I look for a switchback once again, but he's able to park the car very well on the apex of the corner, and this leads to me sort of just being stuck, bumping into the back of him, and there's not really too much I can do at that point. So we are down in 8th position now at this point, and I was hoping to try and re-overtake him later into the race, but I knew at this point we are deep into the second half of the race. You can see our fastest lap so far is a 34.935, and unfortunately we just make a bit of a big mistake going into the first corner, and this allows Ben Luff to now put us under pressure behind. And fun fact, Ben Luff was actually in every single one of our heats in the afternoon, and we were also in the same final as well. So lots of racing with him in this one. And now as we come under the bridge once again, Ben is able to get so much overspeed coming out of the second hairpin that he's able to sort of shoot down our inside. I decided to keep my foot in, and we ended up just sort of bouncing off the barrier there. Not really any harm done. Bit of a decent move from him. He was able to make the move stick before the corner. The car just didn't really want to turn in after we went under the bridge. We come across the line with a 35.513, and honestly this is just where we stayed for the rest of the race. You can see Ben has now managed to overtake Dylan and Henry up ahead, and we just got stuck in the mud. This is where we ended up staying, pretty much the theme for the whole afternoon, which is a bit of a shame, but we do come across the line in 9th position. Now obviously a bit disappointed with this. You can see our fastest lap at the end was a 34.6, which was by no means a super slow lap, but in this C final this still meant that we were the slowest person on track, which I was a little bit disappointed with, and honestly just wanted to get this one over and done as soon as possible. However, this does in fact bring us to the end of the video, guys. I hope you have enjoyed it. If you have, can you please leave a like on the video down below, as I really do appreciate it. And if you're new to the channel, if you haven't already, make sure to hit the subscribe button, as it really does help me out. I'm going to leave the results for the championship up on the screen now, so feel free to check through them and see where we are sort of winding up. However, this does bring us to the end, so I hope you guys have enjoyed it. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Take care.